Alrighty, guys, welcome to the first session. Before we get started, I do want to go over the equipment used. It's going to be a barbell bench, some dumbbells, 45-pound plate, squat rack, a box, strap. These are TRX-like suspensive training. I got some back machines, the lat pull down, seated row, low pulley seated row, some leg machines, the leg sled or leg press if you want to call it that, the hack squat, medicine balls, some slam balls, kettlebells, as well as a treadmill. For the warm-up segment, that's actually when we're going to be using the treadmill for a light, low-intensity jog for about 2 minutes. And here I have Francisco getting started. Slight blur at the bottom of the camera. He had some technical issues. This is on his phone. But yeah, nothing crazy here. This is definitely just going to be part of our general warm-up. Get the blood flowing to the legs. Get that core activated. Get the breathing right, And we are going to use this to get our blood going for the first 2 minutes of the warm-up. You got 1 more minute. Five seconds. All right, you're good. All right, and next in our general warm-up is going to be the A skips. This was about 20 yards, 2 times down and back. This is going to activate the quadriceps and to a lesser degree the glutes, hamstrings, definitely the hip flexors. This is a great workout or a great exercise to get into, activate those hip flexors. This is going to use your lower back muscles, your vastus lateralis muscle, and even your core muscles. So this is just a great warm-up exercise to go from, get that blood pumping. I do A skips before, a leg day or anything crazy. Anywhere where I'm really just using my body, A skips, B skips, those type of workouts or exercises are going to be great for getting the blood going. Next up is going to be bounding for about the same distance and reps. Bounding here is going to be, we're going to focus on the hang time, but we also want to get the body moving. Not too crazy on the form or technique here. This is pretty general bounding technique. And next up, we're going to have the seated lean back. So be more of a, specific warm-up, if you will. And this is going to open up the anterior deltoid and give you a really good pectoral stretch. As you can see here, you don't really want to be moving around too much. You do want to have, those fingers curled, the inside of your palms activated, so that you do get the most out of the stretch. Great way to integrate any type of breathing exercises, anything that you want to focus on beforehand. A lot of athletes like to use this before a chest day or, anything where they're going to be activating their upper trunk. Definitely a great specific warm-up, as you see what we get into for our first exercise modality. Next exercise on the specific warm up is going to be burpees. This is going to be for 1 minute, 2 rounds, 1 minute. Burpees is a great workout, great exercise movement to get those glutes activated, the calves, your core, the quadriceps, those quad muscles, shoulders, chest, triceps. This is a full body engagement type of exercise, type of movement. Really specific for any type of full body day in the gym, even outside, as an athlete for many years, burpees was something that was integrated into, a lot of our workout regimens, a lot of the protocols. This is a great way to assess an athlete and, kind of maybe make notes for needs analysis, the way they get up and down, the level of explosion. Are they activating that triple extension? Right? And so this is a great specific warm up for anyone just already warmed up, getting that full body, activated and active here. Next up is going to be the walking lunges with the twist down and back. Super specific movement, exercise, Obviously, you're activating your lower body and you're, even activating your core here with the twist. This is great to assess an athlete to see if they have that general motion down, that general coordination as far as it comes to balance, proprioception, how they feel, are they comfortable, getting down in these positions, moving on top of that, and, just all around being coordinated, being a coordinated athlete. I know this exercise or movement can be used to break down a lot of, qualitative assessments here, any type of, characteristics of an athlete that you want to use to kind of target here. But yeah, these are obviously going to activate the gluteus maximus, the hamstring muscles, quadriceps, the gastrocnemius, soleus, calves, if you will. And yeah, just super great specific warm-up exercise. Definitely one of the reasons why I chose it for this first session. All right, guys, getting into the main program segment, the first modality is going to be resistance training. We did some upper body bench variations. This was using the barbell bench press, dumbbell, and standing plate press. I think I have some slides here that are going to work into the video. We did work with 3 sets of 10 for each variation. And we started off with the dumbbell bench press. Might say otherwise on my template. But yeah, this is a great workout. We had a great warm up for this. We pretty much got ready for this with our seated lean back, and our burpees for sure. So here we have Francisco getting started on that dumbbell bench. This is great for, range of motion, as opposed to isolation of a muscle. You want to isolate those chest, those pectoralis muscles. You definitely want to do that on a more of a machine, really. But here the dumbbell bench is great workout to activate those triceps, the pectoralis muscles, especially the pectoralis major, and the anterior deltoids for sure. Next variation we got going for us here is going to be that barbell bench. We did 3 sets of 10 here. As you can see, Francisco has the 5 points down here, perfectly executed. Head on the bench, shoulders back on the bench, both feet on the ground. And, we do get a little hip activation here. He wasn't doing any crazy weight, but this is a great workout. More of, restrictive on the range of motion. This is where you kind of don't want to go past as far as your shoulders angle, your elbow angle. You really just want to stay above here. A lot of people like to drop the bar on their chest here. Definitely not what we're going for. This is going to still work the pectoralis major, anterior delts, triceps brachii, biceps brachii, serratus anterior. This is a great traditional workout exercise here, and definitely one of the reasons why I included this variation in the first session. Next variation here, we are working with a standing plate press. How to do this one in my garage. And so we did, I believe, 3 sets of 10 here. This is great form here. I like to push a little bit higher than just straight ahead. Activate the traps, the trapezius, the teres major, the deltoids, even your core muscles. This is a great exercise to build for, a football player, as opposed to, this would be a good warm-up before they go outside and do any type of drills. But, this is the kind of motion that, your athletes in those contact sports are going to be making. They're not really ever laying down. They're always standing up. So that's just, one way to think about that. Next up in our variations is going to be our lower body resistance training. And this is our classic back squat here. I'm really going for depth, more for form for sure. Nothing crazy on the weight. Hitting parallel and exploding back up. Obviously, the muscles here activated can be our quadriceps, the hamstrings, glutes, hip extensors, the core muscles, and the erector spinae. Great workout, staple workout. I mean, if you're not squatting, you're not really trying to get, this is a great compound movement for functionality, great compound movement for strength, for power, explosiveness. Any athlete can really benefit from this. Just depends, like anything else. What is your goal? What are you training for? Why is your stimulus what it is? These things to take into consideration can lead to hours and days and years of different variations of squats, barbell squats. You could have done a front squat here, activating different muscles, different stimulus. What are you trying to get out of it? Will always be a question in program design for that certain individual. Next up, we got these box squats. We got 3 sets of 10. Francisco here did a great job. Different speeds, variations, really gave me something to work with here. This is a box squat with a plate. It's going to be activating the quadriceps again, the hamstrings, our glutes, core muscles for sure, shoulders, hip extensors. This is a great staple exercise, staple workout. This is more for, anyone getting back into the gym, an athlete, coming back from an injury. It does give you that stability, that, sense of general location of an external object as far as it goes for stability. But great workout all around. So many variations you can do with this, different boxes to use. You can do an eccentric, type of rep where you control the weight going all the way down and exploding on the concentric and coming back up. Really just up to you. If an athlete were to come to me and talk to me about wanting to be more explosive, one of the first things I might do is, get them on a box squat, see how they activate their hips, see what they're working with, full range of motion when it comes down to, the stretch shortening cycle that is obviously very apparent in this movement. And just all around, box squats always been something to help me, get up off the ground, be more explosive. Definitely something I would use for my linemen. Anyone coming off of a play, off of the round, sprinters, even hurdlers. Like, I wouldn't see any reason why this wouldn't be implemented in their workout protocol. But yeah, just definitely all around great movement for sure for the lower body. Next up, we got pull squats. This was performed with dumbbells. We got 3 sets of 10 here. It's going to activate your shoulder muscles, the quadriceps, hamstrings, glute muscles, core and hip flexors. And this is a great movement, honestly. We did different variations, different speeds, interchangeable speeds, really. Like I said, what is your target here? Are you trying to train power? Do you want do you want that front squat to get better? Is this what are your goals as far as, what you're trying to do when you perform this movement? Obviously, here you can see Francisco with this variation, the speed picks up, more of a hip core engaging movement for sure. The glutes are burning, hamstrings, quads, and that's going to really target those, type 1 fibers, really, if you're looking for a hypertrophy effect. Are you trying to train for endurance? Are you training for power? Type 2, type 2X fibers, less fatigue, more power, and it just depends. What is your training stimulus? What are you trying to get? What are you trying to achieve out of this movement? Great workout. Shoulders obviously engaged here, dumbbells at the shoulders, chest up, and here obviously he's going for depth and a little bit of explosion. Nothing wrong with that. Great movements all around. For these TRX suspension training exercises, these are actually straps. Don't want to get copyrighted for not mentioning that, but these are great workouts for activating the trapezius, the rhomboids, those middle back muscles. This is huge. The latissimus dorsi, deltoid groups. It's going to be a slight use of the calf muscles and dorsi and plantar flexion of the ankle when needed. These type of movements with the suspension training is very new as far as, target stimulus, training stimulus. As far as, a strength and conditioning coach's perspective, I would obviously be implementing these in a proactive way for injury, proactive way of coordination, balance, all around just, body, being aware of your body. These type of suspension training exercises is going to put you to your limit as far as balance, coordination, proprioception, and the workouts themselves are pretty challenging. because you have to take these factors into consideration, and you work with them. And when you have more to work with, you have more variations to challenge yourself or your athlete with. And these are just great workouts all around. I've always been a fan of TRX, but here we do switch around from upper and lower body. As you can see here, Francisco is executing the single leg lunge, very tough on the gluteals, quadriceps, and hamstrings. So here, the stress shortening cycle is very, very present. You're going to lengthen during the eccentric phase as you lower your body to the ground, and the contract during the concentric phase as you bring your body back up. Here we have the alternating leg curls. Great core workout, some would say, but don't be, don't think that the lower body here is not being activated. The hamstrings, great way to incorporate the adductor magnus, the semimembranosus, the semimembranosus, sartorius muscle. These are great. These are great movements. It's probably one of the hardest ones right here, in my opinion. Pistol squats, suspension or not, this is a tough movement. Obviously activating your glutes, hamstring, quadriceps, hip flexors are huge here. Core muscles are huge here. And the big one about this movement is, we are incorporating the muscles that make up the glenohumeral joint. The good old ball and socket, this is a great workout, great movement, all around for TRX, to incorporate, one of the human body's most, susceptible, and vulnerable joints here is, obviously that glenohumeral joint. Any sport you play, maybe not too much soccer, but you'd be surprised, the ball and socket has the greatest range of motion, and yet, with that comes a trade-off, strength, weakness, and that's why it's very important to incorporate movements that involve this joint, involve the strengthening of the glenohumeral joint muscles. All right, getting right into it. The exercise modality 3 is going to be with our manual resistance training exercises, starting with the upper body exercises. Here we're going to use this lat pull down machine. Pretty sure a lot of people are familiar with. So essentially, the lat pull down works the latissimus dorsi, the largest muscle in the back, as well as your biceps, rear deltoids, rhomboids, and traps. Here I was definitely just going not really through the motions. I definitely wanted to get that squeeze at the back, at the top of the back. But I focused that more here during the seated row, where we go for a set of 10 here. Seated row is going to be a great variation to this. Again, working the same muscle groups: biceps, trapezius, rhomboids, latissimus dorsi. Great movement. Obviously, you can see I'm holding for the squeeze there, just to, bring those shoulder blades together, really, and get that full range of motion, full extension here. Speaking of full range of motion, these seated rows, this is a great low pulley seated row staple exercise. I usually do this at the beginning to get my blood pumping, but I was already warmed up. So I was ready to go here. You can limit the range of motion as far as, hinging at the hips and letting your trunk come forward or not. What you really want to focus on is your arms getting that full extension, bringing the weight back to your body. Sweet. Next movement, lower body exercises. It's going to be with the assisted machine leg exercises. All of these movements essentially are going to be targeting the gluteus maximus, semimembranosus, semitendinosus, biceps femoris for sure, vastus medialis, rectus femoris. And starting off, we have the leg sled, or the leg press, if you will. Great staple movement, compound isolated movement. This is definitely, can be used by either novice, amateur, advanced athletes. Because it is a machine, it is very not impossible. I don't want to give the impression that it's not possible to get hurt on these, because obviously weight, volume, and all-around form need to be considered when on these machines, but just definitely great for isolating those leg muscles, targeting those leg muscles. Speaking of targeting, I definitely wanted to target each leg and, test its integrity against the other. And so I went well into the single-legged press. This one here at the rack is a little bit different. Usually I'm able to put my legs straight across at the one on my gym, but this is also at a incline. And so this is a great workout. Definitely engaged here with my quads and my hamstrings for sure. And yeah, just all around great movement. So help with explosion. This is something that I would definitely do for, any athletes that are trying to activate that lower posterior chain, no doubt. Like I said, you can add weight as the sets go on. I believe I went through increments of 10 for each set per leg. And yeah, I really try to push myself here. Third variation for our lower body exercise is going to be the hack squat machine. Staple exercise. I mean, this is going to get you some massive legs, no doubt. Mainly targeting the quadriceps. Just the way it's, it's a great machine to isolate the quads. Obviously, the glutes are going to be very active here, as well as the adductors, your calves, the core muscles for sure. If you ever done the hack squat machine, you're, very engaged here. Your core is very engaged. And that's because of, the activation of those core muscles, the spinal erector, back muscles, but all around, just a great movement, great exercise to incorporate in anyone's leg day for sure for athletes. And yeah, hitting the floor running is going to be here with us on our fourth modality for our exercises, and we went ahead and did that with some medicine ball variations, some slam ball variation exercises. Obviously, starting with the upper body exercises, we have some explosive slam ball throws. These are multi-directional. This right here in particular is the tilting wall throw. And pretty much essentially what you want your athlete to be doing is to engage their weight here, slowly tilting towards the point of almost falling and activating pretty much the triple extension. You know, you're activating those ankles, those knees getting extended, and pretty much just exploding up with those hips, stepping forward with whatever foot or leg feels comfortable. You know, I did try to switch around with which leg I stepped with, but for the most part, it's okay. You want this to be a natural movement because of the speed and the power coming from the motion of the movement. Next up, got our twisting wall throws, multi-directional, great movement here. This is obviously going to activate the core muscles for sure. And mostly I really like this because of the, activation of the upper extremities here, your core muscles, your chest. You want to be in an athletic stance, never really, too far back, too far up, but, the hinge of the hips and, the being soft on the knees here. Really great, really going to let you open up here and really drive for each rep here on this movement for sure. Last but not least, we have the sitting wall throws. Really wanted to isolate, the upper body here. Not much, activation from the core muscles, the back muscles, lower back muscles. Definitely all, deltoids, arms, core. Great for reaction. Great for anyone trying to be explosive on their overhead for sure. For the lower body exercise, we have leg exercises with a medicine ball. And for the first set here, we have extended leg holds. These are killer. Some would say this is a core exercise, but just you try it and tell me that your leg muscles are not activated here. Huge on your outer thigh muscles. Your quads are definitely well engaged, but mostly going to be those adductors, definitely those hamstrings, and just a great workout to really get those legs going with a medicine ball. You can do this with body weight, but I chose with the medicine ball. Here is our extended full leg raises, if you will. And for sure, the core is definitely activated here, very present, but the stability and the movement here is to isolate those leg muscles, the discipline that you have to hold and, really concentrate in this movement is critical. And just a great overall technique to use for activation of, those smaller muscles. There's definitely some, muscle imbalance here that can be corrected through this movement. And yeah, overall, I think it's just a great exercise to incorporate. Very creative. Different variations, different weights can be, different weighted medicine balls can be used here. Last but not least, obviously the staple of the crop here is going to be our leg curls, really targeting those hamstrings. Like I said, this is great. This is going to make your athlete aware proprioceptively, all around on, their hamstrings, how well they're able to contract, stretch shortening cycle. And, you can incorporate this for anyone trying to get explosive, anyone that has problems with mobility at the knee and doesn't want to hurt that knee. Great movements for sure. Next up on the fifth exercise modality is going to be our kettlebell exercises. These are great. Kettlebells have been around for so long, and I can see why. I just started getting into kettlebell movements. And so these are going to be targeting the triceps, biceps, the lateral deltoids, anterior deltoids, serratus anterior. These are great movements. And as you can see, I'm here starting off with a kettlebell bicep curl. Did about 3 sets of 10 here. Really want to hold and contract at the peak of that movement and let your elbows stay inside. Don't let them flare out from the sides of your body. And here we are with some kettlebell front raises. As you can see, the first rep, I went straight forward right in front of me. And that just didn't feel too, it didn't feel anatomically, correct. It wasn't at an optimal angle. So as you can see, as the further reps continue, I kind of come out to a small 45% degree from my shoulders and the inside of my armpits here. And it just feels natural. This is what you want to, relay to your athlete. You don't want to feel like you're in pain throughout the entire movement. You want to feel pain during that sticking point or, when you're activating a certain muscle group. Next up, we have the tricep extensions with the kettlebells. Great isolation movement. Great way to use. Next up, we're going to have this kettlebell movement for our lower body. It's going to be some kettlebell movements targeting the glutes, hamstrings, quads, and the core muscles for sure. It's going to be kettlebell swings. I believe we did 3 sets of 15 here. And this is just an overall great movement. As you can see here, I'm getting ready almost in a sumo squat position. Grabbing that weight and really just pushing through. I did use my arms here to, activate at the flexion of my hips here to help that weight move around. Definitely something that you want to cue to your athlete. Let them know. Be aware of that. This is a great impulse to momentum movement. This is going to help those lower back muscles, engagement of those lower posterior chain muscles, core muscles for sure. And pretty much great movement all around. I love kettlebell swings. I've always done those. And so, moving on to the next set of this variation. It's going to be single leg RDLs. Great movement for anyone, that wants to strengthen their lower back or already knows they have a bad lower back and they want to re-strengthen their lower back or, facilitate a stimulus that will allow their lower back to become stronger. Single leg RDLs, isolation down, hamstrings down, lower back down. These are all, factors and aspects of this movement that are going to help your athlete to feel comfortable getting down from a elevated position to a, bent down position or a position straight to the ground. This is great movement, great exercise. You want your athlete to build off of these and later on use maybe dumbbells, barbells, get some weight going there. Not necessarily a necessity, but definitely a perspective to have when performing these movements. What's the next step here? For our last set, we did some squat lateral lunges or some side step and holds, if you will, with the kettlebells. We did 3 sets of 8 on each side. And so this is a great movement. Still going to be activating, most of those extensors. Your legs are, going to be very well involved here. But for the most part, this is still, glute, hamstring, hamstrings, quadriceps activation movement here. Obviously the core again, your abdominals for sure. Great movement overall. Switching from left to right, you're able to assess your athlete and see, maybe they are stepping out of their range of motion, or maybe they don't even have the mobility to step at the range of motion that they need to. And this is just a great overall movement to see, are they moving optimally? Is it too much weight? Can I make it harder for them? Because I'll tell you what, this is great for explosion coming off that leg that has where the knee flexion occurs, where the knee extension comes off for that push. these are great isolation movements and overall great movement in general. All right, moving into our exercise 6 modality. It's going to be rubber band exercises. So obviously first we got the upper body exercises. More of a calisthenic assisted band movements, really. But for our first round, we have some banded chest press. Not really a conventional exercise or movement that I see done too much around the gym, but I'll tell you, it is probably one of my favorite after doing that and using that here in this video. Next up, we have the plyo push-ups, banded assisted. These are great movements. This is obviously an advanced exercise that works your chest, triceps, your abs, and your shoulders. That type of push-up, it's a jumping element is added to the exercise to make it more challenging. Obviously, explosion and power is going to be the byproduct of such movements if you were to incorporate those in your training regimens. For that last banded exercise, it's going to be a banded single arm row. Obviously, still activating much of those back muscles, but now you have a lengthening and shortening stimulus going all the way around that range of motion, and it can become pretty challenging. You can adjust the resistance, you can adjust the weight of the band, you can adjust or include external weights if that is your goal. And so moving on to those lower body exercises, we'll be targeting the anterior and posterior chain, obviously, all throughout these movements. First up, we have the banded lateral leg raises. After the banded side steps and banded knee drives. Great staple workout, and I'll go over that when we get to that point. But for these lateral leg raises, we're definitely going to be targeting or involving the core muscles. Cover the lower torso, your obliques even here are going to be activated of the abdominal muscles, latissimus dorsi of the back even. It's going to be, these lateral raises also improve strength in the adductor muscles, abductor muscles. I say adductor because you can really control that resistance coming back since this is a banded movement. You have that resistance present throughout the entire movement. The gluteus minimus, gluteus maximus, these are the muscles of the buttocks. But all around great movement. Great way to get, that lower body activated. If you have an athlete that's, maybe doing multi-directional movements or, is just trying to, up their range of motion, definitely a great movement. Another one of my favorite movements is going to be these banded side steps. The reason why is because, as an athlete, I didn't really ever know any exercises incorporated to, kind of isolate these adductor and abductor muscles, as well as, using resistance bands to, excel as far as human performance goes for an athlete, because, resistance is going to be a constant stimulus throughout these movements. And, that is the best way to, come out of a, not necessarily a plateau, but, resistance is the best stimulus when looking for a breakthrough in training due to supercompensation or, the overall gas protocol. The gas theory is definitely here. You can get to that fatigue, that alarm, kind of regressive state before the supercompensation, and resistance will always be a great stimulus here. Last exercise, one of my favorites, is going to be these banded knee drives. And this is just huge for explosiveness, huge for, joint mobility, range of motion, huge on those hip flexors, extensors, and just an overall, staple movement that I feel like could definitely be used for an athlete, maybe a track star or a track athlete, track and field, or, soccer, or, a striker in soccer, or even, a kicker in football. a receiver trying to get off, the corner, or, a safety coming downhill. These are great movements that are going to elicit that explosion, that explosiveness needed throughout the game or throughout the, movement of the athlete that needs to be performed. Last but not least, we have our cool down segment with some final stretching. Started here with the variation of the Cobra stretch. Now, usually the traditional Cobra stretch is more of a trunk movement where you have trunk flexion in a vertical manner up, as well as a vertical flexion of the legs. Really, the only things that you want on the ground when performing these Cobra stretches is usually, your lower abdominals, and obviously the top part of your thighs. You can't move those. But this is a great variation used for any type of lower back pain. You can do these hanging. You can have your head hanging. This is going to reactivate that stretch in those upper body muscles. I tried to make it a full body kind of stretch all around. And the reason I use that variation is for that reason. Next up, we have our lying knee to chest holds. And these are, great for any athlete coming down from, explosive training. Those muscles are tight. They're going to be stiff the next day. Give yourself a good stretch afterwards. This is very crucial, critical, vital to any athlete, and it should be the strength and conditioning coach's responsibility to enforce these type of stretches after such a rigorous or extensive regimen protocol training in their program design. And so next up, we have our arm circle variations. Had a cut on the top. And these are great. Been doing these since I was a kid, and now I understand why. Like I was talking about the glenohumeral joint earlier, one of our most susceptible joints. And, this is just going to be great reactivation of those joint muscles, kind of getting them and helping them stay loose. It's usually when they are too loose or too stiff that a injury occurs. You want to keep them not necessarily warmed or activated, but you definitely want to keep them at an optimal elasticity rate, or a good profile of elasticity, not too stiff, not too loose. That's how the injuries occur. Here I have a great child pose for about 1 minute. You can see the kyphosis in my back, the rounding of the upper back. That is due to some weak teres major, teres minor, some weak back muscles. Definitely something that you'd be able to see through an assessment of your athlete. And what better way to see this than incorporating a child's pose, where you do need that neutral back and you do need them to be fully extended. And this is when their body is already been taxed. So, that in the integrity of their structural posture is really what's going to be questioned here is, what is the posture like after such a long day of training or such a rigorous day of training, and, what can we do to improve it? And one of the best ways to do that is to, obviously, you got to activate something, use it or lose it. Not a principle, not a theory, just saying, but it's very well true, very well applicable, through Wolff's Law and everything. So, these are big considerations to, take and amass a kind of approach for your athlete. And really, this is just a great stretch all around, really great to cool down. Obviously, this is a final type of stretch, no doubt. And yeah, you think it's all your back, but, pushing off your hands here, there's so many different variations to this stretch and pose. But I use it to, mainly keep my lower back in place and focus on my breathing. Alrighty, guys, and that concludes session 1 for our strength and conditioning workout video.